Hello there, everybody. Jonathan Abbott back. I'm going to do a top 50, or not really a top 50. This is unranked, just 50 movies from 2018. Let's get started. Now, I was going to edit around this ridiculous 4 to 5 hour version of this list that I put together where I just rambled on endlessly about these movies, but I figured I'm going to remake that. Going to do it like this, and the way I'm going to do it, I'm going to time myself a minute per movie. So I'm going to try to plow through these in under an hour, these 50 films, talk about them with you guys. So here we go. Let's start with number one. Boom. 1 minute. Number one movie, we got Widows, directed by Steve McQueen. Not the race, not the racer or whoever. This is a 9 out of 10 movie. Steve McQueen, definitely not his best movie. I think that belongs to either Hunger, his first movie, or that may have been his first movie. I don't know. But Hunger is really great. 12 Years a Slave, and what was the other one? Shame is my personal favorite of his. This is a really good heist movie, though. Really great performances all across the board. It was just lacking something for me. That's why it's at a 9 out of 10 instead of like a 10 out of 10. It's definitely a 9 out of 10. A real solid, well-acted movie. Very intense, especially near the end when they're doing the heist. And it's got a couple twists and turns along the way. Really great. Everybody in this movie's really great. Steve McQueen's definitely an actor's director, and he knows how to bring good performances to the table. All right, so that's 1 minute up there already. Next movie we've got, speaking of Steve McQueen, this is about a subject named McQueen, so this is number two, a documentary called McQueen. I gave this a 4 out of 10. I found it to be an interesting subject, boring execution though. I didn't give a damn about it after a while. I just thought it was pretentious, and it was about this topic that I didn't really find myself investing in, and it was just I don't know, it was just very boring. Like the execution, the film's ugly to look at. Kudos to this guy, God rest his soul. Like he seemed very talented. However, from what I saw, and like I just wasn't really impressed with what he brought to the table and what the hell this documentary was about. It's at an astounding 99% critic approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I find that's absolutely ridiculous. I thought this film was completely boring, and yeah, just gave me no interest in this subject at all, and about fashion in general. Just didn't care about it. All right, so moving on. That was another second minute. Number three, we got The House That Jack Built, the notorious film from Lars von Trier. This, of course, got booed out of Cannes Film Festival. People are outraged by the violence. It's not as violent as your run-of-the-mill slasher, Saw, torture porn type film, but it is very disturbing. And part in that is due to a career-high performance from Matt Dillon. He's phenomenal in this. He should have got an Oscar nomination. He is absolutely charismatic as this insane serial killer with OCD. And the film gets more disturbing as he starts to get more reckless and careless with his vicious acts. This is a very sickening character. It's very disturbing, following him around, randomly killing people. It's also darkly funny too, and that's what made it partly disturbing. I got a lot to say about this film, but 8 out of 10 for it. I want to give it a higher rating, but it's just a little too fucking disturbing for me. So anyhow, moving on to speaking of disturbing, number four, we got a movie called Hereditary. Speaking of Oscars that were completely snubbed, Toni Collette should have been nominated for this role. She's great in this film, along with everybody else. I forget the actor's name, but he's really good as her son, and they both have the strongest character work to deal with when it comes to this script. Very tough stuff for these actors, and very tough stuff as a viewer. Like, there's a lot of really disturbing stuff in this film as well. And the ending leaves a little bit to desired. I guess that's why it's sitting at a 9 out of 10 for me instead of a 10 out of 10. However, this is a horror classic. Like this has that classic feel to it, where it just leaves you unnerved throughout the whole movie. You always get this sense of dread going throughout, and it's a really classic horror film. Like it's not exploitive, and it's very well acted and atmospheric, and I really appreciated that. So highly recommend Hereditary. Wow, we're just plowing through these now. Anyhow, another minute for that. Number 5, we got a great movie. One of the first 10 out of 10 I list on this. We got Stan and Ollie sitting at number 5. This is a great film. Great performances, Oscar-worthy performances from John C. Reilly and Steve Coogan. They're both phenomenal in this, loving tribute to two comic geniuses, Stan and Ollie. I just found this film absolutely charming, well acted, totally surprising with some of the ways they portray certain characters. I was just really impressed with this film, and Steve Coogan in particular, he's at his best during this performance, and same with John C. Reilly. They both undergo heavy amounts of makeup, and they both become the legends that they're depicting on screen here with Stan and Ollie. And this is one of the best films of 2018 for sure. I highly recommend it to everybody. This is just such a wonderful film. Anyhow, speaking of wonderful, moving on, we got another film here at number 6. It's called Burning, and this is another 10 out of 10 film. Very mysterious, thought-provoking film. Brilliantly well acted, especially from Stephen Yeun from The Walking Dead. He played Glenn on that show. He's wonderful in this film. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what the hell is going on with this film, but I think I got a pretty firm stance on where it's at. While I was watching it, it oddly reminded me of a movie like Enemy, except where that film is about a actor and the problems he goes with, and they sort of portray that with his doppelganger, who's literally a twin. In this film, I viewed it as a similar way. What happens in the film, it's about a wannabe film writer or novelist. I forget it. It's been a while since I've seen this film. But he's a writer of some kind, and he's going through this weird stuff with this woman, and it's definitely a mystery. So it's going to be a film that you're going to want to sit and ponder if you give it a watch, and I'd highly recommend it. 10 out of 10 for Burning. Anyhow, moving on to number 7. This is not a perfect movie. This is number 7 movie called. I think this just came out recently too. It's called Mirai. I gave this 4 out of 10. This. Beautiful animation, really gorgeous looking, and it's hindered by one of the worst musical scores I've ever heard to a movie, and a completely annoying protagonist. I hated this little jerk of a kid that we had to follow throughout the course of this movie. I just thought he was a hateful little shit. I didn't like him at all, and it was just really annoying. Like I did not care about anything going on in this movie. I thought it was stupid, and they really ruined the great job that the animators did with this film by having such a stupid story and a god-awful score. I can't stress that enough. It's the worst movie score I've heard in a long time, quite frankly. It is just bad, and this movie is total nonsense. One of the most overrated films I've seen from 2018. How it's sitting at a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, I'll never know, but it's complete trash. Moving on, number 8, we got an animated movie now that isn't trash. It's number 8, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I gave this a 9 out of 10. Said it was inspiring and imaginative, and it totally is. This is a gorgeous movie, wonderful looking. At first, it kind of like maybe for the first 10 minutes, it's kind of takes a while to adjust to the frame rate and whatnot, but it's very easy to watch for the rest of it. It's very gorgeous looking. The voice actors are great. The only thing I guess I don't really like, keeps it from being a 10 out of 10, are the annoying musical choices. I don't like Post Malone at all, so like his music pulsating throughout the course of this movie kind of irritated me, and like it feels I don't know there. I might have to do another in-depth review on this because already we're probably sitting at 30 seconds for this review, and all I can say about it is that it's just a very enjoyable movie, and it definitely deserved the Oscar for Best Animated Film, and it deserved all the praise that it got and even more. So that's why I'm praising it now. 9 out of 10 for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Moving on to another comic book property at number 9, we got Aquaman. I gave this a 7 out of 10. It's a familiar movie for sure. We've all seen this crap, this superhero origin crap before with all the stupid flashbacks and whatnot. It's shockingly entertaining though, with some really impressive visual effects at times. At other times, the visuals aren't so good. Like I'm thinking of the scene where they are, Arthur or Aquaman's tied up by the guards, and it's in this entirely white room, and that was a fuck ugly scene. Trying to watch that scene was really gave me a headache, oddly enough, and certain scenes are very distractingly ugly when it comes to the visual department. But overall, I just thought this was very entertaining, very predictable, of course. But I did like the villains. I wish the script was a bit more smart because it's kind of stupid with a lot of generic dialogue. Like, oh, I'm getting my revenge. You're the Aquaman. Oh, I've heard all about you. It's like, who are you, villain guy? But yeah, this is a very entertaining movie. Jason Momoa is great as Aquaman, and I really look forward to seeing sequels with him. I think he's got a lot of charisma. Amber Heard kind of does nothing in this film, and you know, whatever. And I forgot to set the minute timer for that one. So moving on, number 10, we got Mission Impossible Fallout. I gave this a perfect 10 out of 10. This is the best of the series for sure, and a high watermark for the action genre itself. This one of the best films of the year of 2018, 10 out of 10. Tom Cruise is great. He proves why. Once again, he's one of the most reliable, bankable action heroes out there. And the final helicopter chase in this scene, in this movie, I mean, my God, what amazing filmmaking. The sheer balls on Tom Cruise to ride around this helicopter so close to the mountains. It's just, you feel like you're watching a madman on screen, and yet you can't turn away because it's like, this guy loves the craft, and he loves making movies that people are going to be thoroughly entertained by, and I was thoroughly impressed with how much fun this movie was. Mission Impossible Fallout, perfect action movie. It's definitely the Mad Max Fury Road of 2018, in my opinion. Just one of those great action movies that you could watch over and over again, in my opinion. Moving on to number 11, this is the Best Picture winner of 2018. This is Green Book. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I think initially I gave it a 9 out of 10. However, I do think it is kind of overrated in a sense. It is reverse driving Miss Daisy to a T, but it's an undeniably fun ride, obviously due to these two lead performers. I think they're both wonderful in this film. It would have been nice to see Viggo win Best Actor or Christian Bale win, but instead they gave it to Rami Malek, and I have some things to say about that a little later. But this is a very, I mean, like this is a good Best Picture winner. I mean, it didn't offend me as it did some people that this won. I mean, I thought this was a film that anybody could watch and have a good time with, unless they're really looking to, you know, like, obviously it is predictable, and like I said before, it is reverse driving Miss Daisy. However, you can't deny that this is a charming film with charming performers at the heart of it, and yeah, I don't get some of the backlash this film's getting. Anyhow, moving on, we got number 12. Number 12, a movie called What They Had. This film, I think I watched it because it has one of my favorite actors, Michael Shannon, in the film. So it's got great actors, very relatable the characters are, but it's just a little too damn predictable. I gave this a 6 out of 10. Some of the drama in it is just a little too heavy-handed. It's got Hilary Swank as well. She's really good. All the actors are really good here, but it's so predictable to the point where I was literally calling a scene that I knew would happen halfway through. It sort of starts off like the scene after the credits is Hilary Swank running, and then a piece of my mind was telling me she's going to have this exact same scene happen later in the film, except she's going to break down and cry about something. And surely enough, that happens, and it has to do something with their marriage and whatnot. And it's just totally predictable. And however, it does have its moments of like sibling rivalries and comedy, dark comedy. But it just doesn't quite reach that part where it's anything but forgettable and entertaining on a superficial level. Moving on now, number 13, we got a Tyler Perry movie here. I had no interest in watching this, obviously, but it's called Nobody's Fool, and I gave this a surprising 6 out of 10. For a Tyler Perry movie, that's a real surprise for me. He hasn't really done a lot to impress me. However, who did impress me in this film was Tiffany Haddish. I thought she was really funny in this film. It's got the typical rom-com tropes. The main character's kind of a dunce. And the whole catfish topic, I mean, like, it feels like a decades old, that whole thing. But I guess people still fall for it, so I guess kind of timely in a way. I don't know, like, I didn't really like the main character at all. I wish Tiffany Haddish was the main character in this. She was a lot more likable. And at one point in the film, she sort of just disappears. Whoopi Goldberg's in this as well. I really like her, and I really like the actor who plays the love interest, and that's about it. Those guys are really good. But this film isn't that much special. It's funny in moments, mainly due to Tiffany Haddish and Whoopi Goldberg. Anyhow, moving on, number 14. This is another 10 out of 10 film for me to talk about. Number 14, we got Blind Spotting. This film was really good. Came out of nowhere for me. Perfectly balanced between comedic and dramatic tones. Two of the best performances of the year with these two lead actors here. Really worth watching. I mean, it's basically about post-traumatic stress after seeing a horrifying act, and it's about the main conflict is about a black guy who, you know, he's 24 hours away from being done with serving community service hours or whatnot, because he did some sort of crime where in 24 hours he'll finally be done with it, and he can, you know, move to other parts of the city or the state or what have you. And it's just brilliantly acted, very mature, and I just love the movie. I can't recommend it enough. 10 out of 10 for Blind Spotting. And moving on now to number 15. This is my favorite film of 2018 that I'm going to talk about here. Number 15, we got a documentary called Momentum Generation, and again, this is a 10 out of 10. This is the best documentary of the year. Truly inspiring set of people involved with this. It's about a bunch of surfers and telling their story, and the footage that they gathered, that they filmed of themselves as kids, and to them now grown up to be 40, 50 something. I think they're 40 something year old guys, late 40s. But it's very sprawling, very epic. Covers so many topics such as sibling rivalries to tragedies to triumphs. It's such an epic tale, and it's really a film that's incredibly worth seeing, incredibly inspiring, beautiful movie. Had me crying for a good 10 to 15 minutes halfway through the movie, and it made me believe in a higher calling, you know, that's how I knew right away. It's like what happens in the middle of this film is so inspiring and just so shockingly beautiful and poetic that it just, yeah, it gave me such hope, and I love this film, and I can't recommend it to enough people. 15, Momentum Generation. This was my favorite film of 2018 for sure. Moving on to number 16, we got Hearts Beat Loud. I gave this pretentious drivel a 5 out of 10, and that's a 5 out of 10 at very best. This is pretentious indie dramedy crap with some very likable performances. However, Nick Offerman plays a character who's just so generically written. I mean, at the beginning, he's smoking in his record store, and you can just tell it's like this is going to be like a character arc for this guy. Is quitting smoking, and like obviously he's losing the store, and you can just I hate movies that are so predictable. Even from the first shot, you get this air of superiority and pretentiousness about it, and like he strikes me as a very creepy character in this. Toni Collette's also in this. Ted Danson's in it too. He's probably the most likable thing in it, is Ted Danson as this bartender guy. But I just hated this film. Like there's something so fake and phony about all the money problems that these characters go through, and I just didn't buy it for a minute. So fucking 5 out of 10 for Hearts Beat Loud. Real pretentious drivel. Moving on to number 17, we got a movie called Pick Up the Litter. I gave this another 5 out of 10 as well. Cute dogs. I mean, it didn't piss me off as much as Hearts Beat Loud. I thought that was boring. I watched this with my mom right around Christmas time. Let me set a timer for this one. Watched this with my mom right around Christmas time. Well, we both enjoyed it on a superficial level, I guess, but it's so overlong and it feels extremely formulaic. Literally, it goes from one set of people or one person crying about having to let go of the dogs, and then like the person that gets the dog next, like they start crying and want, oh, like after they lose the dog too, and it just becomes this very generic thing. And I wish it was just more centered on the dogs, because quite frankly, I didn't give a damn about any of these people in it. It's like you people look like you could just get a dog for yourselves, but instead you get given these dogs to train for a little bit, and then you're upset and crying about how you lost them. So whatever, I just didn't care about this film. It could have been 20 minutes long, and it could have been really fun. However, at its length, which is about 80 to 90 minutes, I mean, it's just way too damn long and way too boring for a feature length. But this is another film like Hearts Beat Loud and like a couple other films I rated a little lower that have ridiculous ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. This is at like a 99%, I think, and that's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know how the hell people can rate this so high. Is it because of the dogs and their cuteness? Probably. Moving on from that crap now, number 18, we actually got a good film here. Number 18, we got a film called Apostle, which is from one of my favorite filmmakers working today, Gareth Evans. This guy made the Raid films, and this is a compelling venture into horror for this guy. He normally obviously loves doing action films, and his transition into the horror genre is very atmospheric with this film. Dan Stevens is the star to this film, along with Michael Sheen. He's co-star. They're both really phenomenal in this, along with the whole cast, quite frankly. I don't even think I said the rating for this, but number 18, Apostle, I give it an 8 out of 10. This was a very good film. I could see why it was so polarizing to certain audiences. I mean, it kind of ends on a weird note, and it is a little bizarre. It's more atmospherically terrifying than a like outright jump scare terrifying. And the violence in this is very very harsh, very brutal to experience, and I just quite frankly really enjoyed it. Anyhow, moving on to another film at number 19 here, we got American Animals. I gave this one a perfect 10 out of 10. I think this was the first film I saw this year that was my first 10 out of 10. Really great stuff here. I love Evan Peters. He's one of my favorite actors working today. And this film is just the Wolf of Wall Street of art school crime capers. I was so fascinated by this film, especially with the way they tell the story, how half of it is told documentary style, and the other half is told biopic style with actors playing the characters. And how it reminded me of The Wolf of Wall Street was how they tell, like, it's literally the two main characters in real life telling the way they saw how they were planning this robbery. And it's so funny how the film changes, you know, depending on their stories. It's so fascinating to watch. And yeah, every actor in this does a great job. The direction here is phenomenal. Editing's very well paced. It's a bit long, admittedly. However, bear with it, and you're in for a treat with this film, because there's a lot of really great stuff, and yeah, truly phenomenal work here. However, moving on to number 20, we got a film here that is not phenomenal. It's Ready Player One, and this is the worst film of 2018 in my opinion. Of the 50 that I saw here, this is the worst one. 1 out of fucking 10 for this film. I thought it was thoroughly disappointing, blandly photographed, ugly gray color palette throughout, a horrendous ending, which is a slap in the face. I'm probably going to do an extended review on this film along with a couple other 10 out of 10 films that I mentioned previously. This is just garbage. Like, how people actually gave this high scores and how critics actually came together and gave it a high Rotten Tomatoes critic score. I mean, it's completely offensive to me and completely ridiculous. I hated everything about this film except for the performance from Mark Rylance, who was in it for about 5 minutes along with Simon Pegg. Mark Rylance, he's just one of those actors that gives a good performance in everything he's in, no matter what. But this film just sucks, and God, I hate this film, and I'll surely talk about it in length somewhere else down the line, be ranting about this trash. Moving on to a film that is a little bit better, we got number 21, Thoroughbreds. However, I gave this a 4 out of 10. Brilliant performances, but it's mixed in with one of the most mean-spirited premises to a movie I've ever seen. Some asshole douchebag critic on the main poster even related this film to American Psycho and Heathers, both really wonderful movies, especially American Psycho. This has nothing to do with any of those movies, and quite frankly, I find it an insult to both those movies that the critic even bothered to compare this trash to that, because this is pure drivel. The only saving grace are the two performances, Olivia Cooke, Ayanna Taylor-Joy, and of course Anton Yelchin, rest in peace. He's in this film. He's the brightest spark about it. Once he pops up in the film, like, a huge smile came across my face because he's got such charisma and he's so likable right away, even though he's playing kind of a sleazeball in this film. But his personality shines through, and I wish he was still around making movies. Again, rest in peace, Anton. Moving on again, number 22, we got a real stinker. We got a Rampage here. I gave this, again, a 4 out of 10. This is brainless fun on a superficial, real stupid level with two of the worst supporting performances of 2018 in the two siblings who are sort of the antagonists of the movie. They're the ones who end up turning, like, the gorillas and whatever and the alligators into giants. And it's just really bad performances from these two schmucks. Dwayne Johnson's likable as ever. Jeffrey Dean Morgan's playing Jeffrey Dean Morgan or Negan in this film, so he's kind of bland. I'm just getting sick of all these, like, vehicles for The Rock. I mean, he just has the worst way when it comes to scripts. Like, he just picks the stupidest sounding movies, and I'm getting so sick and tired of him in film, which really disappoints me because I love The Rock, but I just find he's too overexposed now, especially with all this garbage that he's in. He just doesn't seem to take his career seriously and just wants to bank off of making the same generic crap over and over again. So what a shame, because he really is a talent, and it pains me to see him wasted on these trashy projects that are worthless, that you'll literally forget about in a minute after seeing it. Now, moving on to number 23, we got a film called I Kill Giants. I gave this a 6 out of 10. This film has got a head-bashingly unlikable unlikable, and that's being nice, lead character. Like, she is such a hateful little bitch. I hated this main character and her stupid bunny rabbit hat and her stupid glasses. I hated everything about this broad. Like, I tried so hard to stick with this movie. And the reason why it is a 6 out of 10 is because it's got the saddest ending of 2018. Quite frankly, one of the saddest endings I've ever seen to a movie. Literally had me crying for a good like half hour or so, just bawling my eyes out. And I give kudos to the filmmakers for sticking with, because part of its impact is how unlikable this character is throughout the majority of this movie. However, the ending really turns that around and makes you sympathize with her, with what's revealed. So I'd recommend this film if you're looking for a good cry. Roll out the tissues for this one. Moving on now to number 24. Number 24, we got Deadpool 2. I gave this shit a 4 out of 10. I found it to be obnoxious, with one of the worst supporting characters of 2018 in that annoying brat, Russell. I hated that fucking kid so much. I couldn't stand him. And Ryan Reynolds, I'm already sick of him playing Deadpool. I mean, I don't care if they recast somebody else's Deadpool. I really don't. When it comes to the Disney acquisition of Fox and their X-Men and Fantastic Four characters, I just don't care anymore. And this film just cemented that whole notion to me that I just don't give a damn about any of these films anymore, quite frankly. And what a shame, though, because there are some funny moments to this film. I got a few chuckles out of it. I really like Josh Brolin as Cable in this, but even he's kind of wasted. Like, some of the materials and the whole time travel thing just makes this film lose all sense of depth and like stakes right away with the introduction of the time travel. So I just didn't care. Moving on to another comic book film, one that's much better, quite frankly. Number 25, we got Avengers Infinity War. Endgame. I gave this a 9 out of 10. I thought this was constantly intense and immersive. However, it's very part 1 of 2. So we're going to see how Endgame fares in order to, get full resolution on how this film holds up. I think it will hold up. I think Endgame's going to be a really phenomenal film, probably even much better than this, quite frankly. But there are a lot of things to nitpick about this film. There are some really bad visual effects. Everything to do with Iron Man looks pretty off for some reason. Like, even though in the first Iron Man movie from 2008, he looks much better than in this film, which I just find completely mind-boggling now that we're 10 years fucking later, and somehow the first Iron Man movie has much better effects than this. Like, come on, guys. However, you can't deny the action. You can't deny all the great humor in this, and especially all the great actors here. Like, they're giving it their all, and every character has a moment to shine, which is really impressive for an ensemble this huge, this massive. Moving on to a much more lower key movie now at number 26, we got a movie called First Reformed. I gave this a 10 out of 10. This is directed by the writer of Taxi Driver, Paul Schrader, I believe his name is. I gave this again a 10 out of 10. Ethan Hawke deserved a Best Actor award for this film at the Oscars and every award show. I don't care who the hell's in competition. Ethan Hawke is phenomenal and at his finest in this damn film. Got one of the greatest, most shocking endings I've ever seen to a movie. Totally left me speechless. Just a really impressive display for these actors. Amanda Seyfried's also in this. She's really good. Cedric the Entertaining pulls out a really great performance too. Really subtle work he's doing. I love the way it's filmed in the 4:3 4:3 aspect ratio, or however it's put. It's got that classic feel right away with how it looks to it. Everything about this film just worked for me. I really loved this film. This is such a classy, perfect film. I love every minute of it. I love it. Moving on to a film that's quite frankly the opposite. At number 27, we got a piece of trash, piece of garbage named I Think We're Alone Now. This was a Netflix film starring Peter Dinklage. He's great. He's the only reason I give this direct a 2 out of 10 and not a 0. He's the best part about it. Almost everything else is a complete bore. Elle Fanning pops up in this film, and as soon as she does, it's like, oh great, we're going in that direction now. And then even worse, like a little bit halfway through, we're introduced to, I don't even want to spoil it, but it's just so stupid what happens and where this film ends up. It starts off with such an interesting, compelling, like sort of idea, like of how like there's this rapture type event where like a bunch of people, or everybody for that matter, except for Peter Dinklage apparently and Elle Fanning who pops up later, like everybody disappears, and it's got one of the best posters of the year too. So in spite of a great performance from Peter Dinklage, but he's great in everything. Go watch The Station Agent, for instance. That's a much more entertaining, better, low-key film than this piece of garbage. This is just indie trash, and I hated every minute of it. Except for the first, like, maybe 10 to 15 minutes where Peter Dinklage is just alone and doing his, like, daily survival routine. Moving on now, number 28, we got Venom. Venom, adrenaline, momentum, Venom, not knowing when I'm ever gonna show up, Venom. I should just, like, sing the Eminem song throughout the course of this. I gave this a 5 out of 10. It's teeth-grindingly generic. However, Tom Hardy is so damn entertaining in this film, especially during that like restaurant scene. I was laughing my ass off with some of the stupid shit they got him to do. He's so likable in this. Other than that, I really don't know how to compliment this film. I mean, it's just so stupid, and you wish it was better with a premise like this, with a character like this. It should have been R-rated for sure. This feels very sanitized and very lame in some ways. This should have been a real badass film, like with a real badass character at the heart of it who just doesn't give a fuck. But instead, this is just another generic superhero movie. They market it as if Venom's a villain. He's not a villain in this. He's a fucking outright hero. He's saving people, for Christ's sakes, and he only kills bad people. How the hell is he anything aside from a hero? Like, give me a break. Anyhow, moving on quickly. Number 29, we got a film called Leave No Trace. I gave this one a 7 out of 10. It's very nuanced, genuine film. Very likable leads. Like I really like the girl in this, and especially Ben Foster. However, it lacks the bite of something like Into the Wild, which is a similar story about like living out in the wild and just not relying on a modern sort of lifestyles, city life, if you will. I don't know. There's something missing about this film. Like it's a very good film, but it's lacking that real punch of something like Into the Wild, and I couldn't stop thinking about Into the Wild throughout the course of this film. Like it feels like there's no consequence to anything that sort of happens. It's just like whatever happens, and at one point in the film they go back into the forest and you just know exactly where it's going to end up. It's way too predictable. So moving on now again, number 30, we got a film called All Square. All Square. This is the most underrated film of 2018 in my opinion. I gave this a perfect 10 out of 10. The lead actor in this, I forget the guy's name. I've seen him in things before. He's always really good. He's of course really great in this film. He's very nuanced. I almost felt this was like a nuanced version of something like Bad Santa or what have you. It's like because he's interacting with this kid, and And it's such a likable film. It's so hard to pin down exactly what I love about this film. It's just so naturalistic, and it dodges a lot of the expectations that I had, like especially for the love interest. Like I thought they were gonna go and make this guy the love interest to this woman, and they make her a bitch at the start, and she's gonna turn around at the end. But it doesn't work out that way, and I really appreciated how genuine this film was, and it's very funny, but it's funny in a way that's natural, and the comedy comes from these characters and their somewhat crazy scenarios they get themselves involved in uh, due to who they are really, and the stupid shit that they're getting themselves into. Moving on now, number 31. We got a very unique film here at number 31. This is a film called Searching. I gave this a 9 out of 10. Thought it was truly unique and inventive, the way they do the storytelling from the web page. I really like the way they tell the story to this film. It's got a fantastic performance from John Cho. He's come a long way from being in those Harold and Kumar films, and this film proves that he's a bona fide movie star. This guy's a real actor's actor, and he knows how to really put a lot of heart and soul into this film. And admittedly, like the first 10-minute montage had me crying my eyes out, even though it is kind of a ripoff of the movie Up. If you've seen Up, you probably know how the intro to this film goes. However, the way they tell the story, like it's just so unique, and it's much better than those fucking Unfriended movies that are just garbage, complete utter trash. This film is worth seeing for its inventiveness and for John Cho himself. Really good movie here. Moving on to my favorite action film of the year. Yes, I really love Mission Impossible Fallout, but this one at number 32 is a real doozy. It's called The Night Comes for Us. This was the best film I saw that was released direct to Netflix. It's got mind-boggling action sequences, the most nail-biting scene I've seen quite recently in any years, for that matter. Like it's this whole midsection of the film that takes place in this apartment complex, and it's so intense. Like I was literally just jumping out of my seat, whether it be in cheers, like yes, or like complete terror. Like some of the violence in this film is so graphic and so disturbing. It's like really people are walking out of Cannes for the house that Jack built. Like, have they not seen this film? Like this film would probably make them faint and go into a coma with how graphic some of these kills are. It's just so violent, so amazing. I really want these guys, these actors and directors to go on and make like a Mortal Kombat movie. Like it wasn't Gareth Evans who directed this. I forget who did it, but kudos to him. Like this is one of the best action films I've seen since The Raid 2. I fucking love this movie, and I want to see more movies like this. Moving on now, number 33, we got Solo, a Star Wars story. I gave this a 7 out of 10. It's a poorly lit film, tonally a mess, yet it's such a swashbuckling good time. I really like Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo, his chemistry with Chewbacca. Really good stuff. I mean, I just liked this movie. Like, I liked the villain, Paul Bettany. I thought he was great. Emilia Clarke just proves to be a complete, complete just void when it comes to acting. Like, she's terrible in this. And once Game of Thrones is over and done with this year, I think she's going to really struggle to get work from here on out, because she's really just a pretty face, and she can't act her way out of a wet paper bag, in my opinion, quite frankly. The stupid droid in this film sucks. Lando is just a caricature. I really like Donald Glover, though, but he's just a caricature in this film. And it could have been so much better, yet it could have been so much worse, and I don't really understand why the hell people hate on this. Like, it's definitely not as bad as The Last Jedi. I had a much more fun time with this film than that crap. Moving on to number 34, We got a film called Final Score with Dave Bautista. Again, this is familiar territory for this type of film. It's very much a ripoff of Sudden Impact with Jean-Claude Van Damme. But Dave Bautista here, he's such a bona fide action hero. I'm actually rooting for this guy more than The Rock now. I think where The Rock is just like completely derailed his career as far as I'm concerned. Like I'm just done with him now. Batista, like he's so likable, like and he's so much more relatable than Dwayne Johnson is now that I just want him in more movies, better movies. And already he's got a better filmography than The Rock in my opinion. Like he was in Blade Runner 2049 for Christ's sakes. That's one of the best movie sequels of all time, quite frankly. One of the best sci-fi films of all time too. I think it's even better than the original Blade Runner, where that film needed like a dozen cuts, like dozen different versions to be good. Like this one only needed one, and it did so phenomenally. So Dave Bautista, Final Score. Really quickly, Pierce Brosnan's absolutely terrible in this film. What the hell he's doing with his accent in this movie, I'll never know. But Final Score on this is a 6 out of 10. Moving on now, number 35, we got a film called Sorry to Bother You. One of the most original, effective, hilarious, and surprising movies of 2018. I gave this a 10 out of 10, Sorry to Bother You. What a jaw-dropping twist this pulls in the third act. I was just completely floored by it. I'm like, what the hell are they doing? It's this film now? That's crazy. Like, it goes from being about a guy working in a call center to something completely ridiculous. You're either going to be on board for it or you're going to hate it, where, you know, I don't blame either camp for how they feel, because literally the twist in this film is going to really affect how you're going to feel about this film by the end. So if you end up hating this film, don't hate me, you know. I'm just the messenger. I'm forewarning you if you haven't seen this film. But it is definitely worth a watch just for the fact that it's so original and it's so hilarious. Stephen Yeun is also in this film. He's really funny, and Danny Glover, although I wish he was in it more, he's really likable as this sort of mentor to our main character, and it's got such a great supporting cast. Armie Hammer, Terry Crews, I really like everybody in this film, and even especially the main actor as well. Moving on now to a different type of film. Number 37, we got a film called Annihilation. I gave this film a 9 out of 10. I thought it was deep, unnerving, but it mildly suffers from such stoic line deliveries from these actors. Obviously, it felt a bit intentional from the director to have these actors say their lines very much like this. Very stoic, very mundane. But other than that, like, this film creeped me the fuck out. There's one scene in particular where they tear somebody's stomach open and you're sort of seeing it from a video camera perspective, and it's so disturbing. And you see something moving inside his stomach. It's so disturbing. And there's some weird terraforming or cross genetics between animals that's very disturbing. And by God, yeah, this is some real deep, disturbing stuff. And what did I say that was? Number 37 or whatnot? I actually missed a film at number 36 here. So let's go back up really quick. Number 36, Annihilation was 37, 9 out of 10. But number 36, we got Won't You Be My Neighbor, which is a 10 out of 10. This is the Mr. Rogers documentary, a beautiful documentary about a beautiful, beautiful man. This had me crying my eyes out, especially during the scene where he has the disabled child on the set, and then years later they show the clip of him meeting him at some award show. But other than that, I mean, it's just a very beautiful documentary about this man who's so inspiring, is so likable. I mean, how you could possibly hate this guy is just ridiculous. Such a ridiculous notion, anybody talking trash about this man. what a beautiful man, and such an inspiring figure. And we need more people to aspire to these levels of genuine good faith and manners and decency. Like, this is a decent man and a beautiful man all around, and I love this documentary. So skipping number 37, which was Annihilation, at 9 out of 10. Number 38, we got back on track, a movie called The Rider, which I gave a 8 out of 10. This is one of the most genuine films of the year. It's just a tad overlong, in my opinion. I don't think it's quite 2.5 hours or whatnot, but it feels very long because of how genuine everything feels. Like, it's very gritty and like dirty during a lot of scenes, and a lot of these actors, they're not even playing characters. They're playing versions of themselves, maybe a bit more exaggerated, but it feels very real. Like, this could have been filmed documentary style, and it probably would have been a bit better, actually, in my opinion. However, I respect the fact that they got these actors to basically play themselves on screen in the most genuine way they possibly could. And it's like a kind of more of a uplifting version of The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke. So go into this film with that in mind, because it's very much The Wrestler, and the ending sort of works in that way as well. So I'd highly recommend this film, The Rider. 8 out of 10 for that. Moving on to another 8 out of 10 at number 39. We got a film called Upgrade. Again, this is an 8 out of 10. Very impressive bursts of action and violence and horror throughout. Masterful performance from the lead actor here, Logan Marshall Green. I thought he was phenomenal in this. Just so damn good with this physical performance and how he contorts his body and how he does like the movements for STEM, like the alien robotic in the back of his neck. Very creepy with the body horror. The ending is really shockingly powerful stuff. Like, it reminded me of a Black Mirror episode, how disturbing this ending was. And yeah, kudos to Lee Winnell, who's the director of this. He was Adam from the first Saw movie. Really great in that. I've always liked him as an actor and a writer, and now he's a great director, and I can't wait to see his version of Invisible Man coming soon. That's going to be really good, I guarantee it, especially with how good this film turned out. Moving on, number 40, we got this was one of the first films I saw last year. It's called The Death of Stalin. I gave this a 9 out of 10. Steve Buscemi's the star here. He's wonderful in this film. So it's got a phenomenal cast along with Jason Isaacs. He's great in it as well. Hilarious dialogue. It can be a bit confusing at times, admittedly. Like, I don't know too much about the Stalin era of politics or whatnot. However, what the film does communicate, you are able to follow it. It's just if you're like myself, you'll probably get a little lost here and there. However, this film's very much worth seeing for what it teaches you about, some of the shit they pulled in the past. And the ending really brings home the fact that this was a disturbing fascist time in the world, and these people are not good. Even though this is a comedy, this is a very dark comedy about murder and betrayal, and it's very much worth seeing. One of the best of the year, in my opinion. 9 out of 10 for Death of Stalin. Moving on to a much more lighthearted comedy now at number 41. Number 41, we got Game Night. Suddenly my voice is cracked with that cough. Number 41, Game Night. I gave this a 7 out of 10. It probably would have been a 6 out of 10. However, it's a 7 out of 10 mainly due to Jesse Plemons and his phenomenal performance as the creepy next-door neighbor who's like a cop. He steals the show. He steals every scene he's in. He's holding this dog the whole time. I love his delivery. Every time he's not in the film, I'm just like, where's he at? Where's he at? I really wish the film was about him, and I wish he was the main character. I'd almost like to see the inverse of Game Night, where it's about him, and there's something that happens. I won't spoil it, but you'll see what I mean if you've seen or you'll know what I mean if you've seen the film. What happens there with his character, and it's just really good stuff. The cinematography here is surprisingly good too. I didn't really buy Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams as a couple for some reason. Maybe it's because the age difference. Like, I don't think there's much of an age difference, but it like I didn't buy them as a couple for whatever reason. I don't know why. I'm a very weird guy, I guess, but whatever. Moving on. Number 42, we got one of my favorite comedies of the year, actually. It's called Blockers. I gave this a 9 out of 10. This is a comedy classic, in my opinion, but it's occasionally undone by some of the worst fucking editing choices I've seen in a film in a long fucking time. Whoever did the editing to this film, shame on you. You ruined something really good. I was ready to give this a 10 out of 10, but the editing is so jarring at times. So stupid. Like, why the hell are you cutting the shot like this? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, every actor here gives it their all. John Cena, Leslie Mann, Ike Barinholtz especially, who's my favorite performance in this film. Hannibal Buress. Just everybody in this film is really firing on all cylinders, and I love the actresses that play the teenagers in this film, like the daughters. Like, they're really good. Like, and it felt like a modern day version of Superbad, or like sort of female version of Superbad that also happened to follow the parents. And everybody is so likable in this film, and there's only one moment of like preachy dialogue that sort of got this feminist twist, and it's kind of stupid. However, apart from that and the awful editing, this is a 9 out of 10. This is a damn near perfect movie in my opinion. I really loved it. This was the real first great comedy I saw in 2018. Moving on now to number 43, Best Picture nomination, Black Panther. What can I say about this film? 7 out of 10. It's slick, it's stylish, it's got a terrific villain. I actually do think that Michael B. Jordan probably should have got an Oscar nomination for a supporting role for playing Killmonger here. He's the best part about the film, along with Andy Serkis, who really is chewing up the scenery as a Claw. But it suffers from a really bad climax. Like, the climax of this film really sucks. In particular, the visual effects just do not hold up for a 2018 movie. These type of effects just are not good. Like, really terrible stuff, and I wish the fight was more raw. Like, I wish it didn't involve stupid super suits, and I'm just sick and tired of the hero versus bad guy climax. It's just getting old, and I really hope that Endgame doesn't have a similar climax where it's just them punching Thanos and that's how they win. If that's how it is, then wow, what a shame. Moving on now, number 44. We're almost at the end here. We got Halloween. I gave this shit a 5 out of 10. I thought this was disappointingly pedestrian. Like, with mere sparks here and there of greatness. Like, that one shot in particular, which they showed in the trailer anyhow, so I already had that spoiled for me. It was nice seeing Jamie Lee Curtis back. It's one of her best performances in years. However, I was expecting much better. Her character is just written so bad in this. Like, she's so paranoid, so delusional. It was relatable to a certain extent, but it just got annoying after a while. It's like, and the whole ending too, and how they get there was stupid. The stupid twist involving what's his face was ridiculous. Like, I just and some of the comedy choices were just so stupid and jarring, and just drove the tone all over the place. And the crap involving the teenagers, like, give me a break. Like, just garbage. Get that out of the movie. Yeah, so 5 out of 10 for Halloween. What a disappointment, man. What a disappointment. Moving on, speaking of disappointment, number 45, we got Bohemian Rhapsody. 3 out of 10 for this trash, and it's lucky to get that. A great performance from Rami Malek does not a great movie make. This movie sucks. Bryan Singer belongs behind bars. He's a pedophile. He should be in jail. How the hell Hollywood defends these pieces of garbage is beyond me. How this got praise to the high heavens both at the Oscars and by audiences is really quite obvious. It's because they really like to idol worship Freddie Mercury, and so do I, quite frankly. But this film turns him into a goddamn caricature of himself, and what a disgrace to the legend which is Freddie Mercury. I really wish they just let Sacha Baron Cohen make his version of this film, because it actually would have been worth seeing. Whereas this is just a blatant concert film, which just blatantly takes the best material that Queen and Freddie Mercury has, like the Live Aid performance in particular at the end, and just like sort of props it up, and it's like, hey, aren't we good now because we recreate this great moment in history that you're all aware of? Such garbage, and how people praise this movie is beyond me. This movie sucks. Sucks. Watch Walk Hard instead. That's a much better film, for fuck's sake. Moving on, number 46, we got A Quiet Place. I gave this a 7 out of 10. Solid acting all across the board, a decent premise. It's just not quite as scary as it intends to be, in my opinion. And the gimmick kind of wore like out its welcome to me, like especially near the end. I mean, I just stopped caring, and you start overthinking about how the logistics of everything, and you know how even down to stupid things like they're using pieces of cloth as Monopoly pieces, so they can't even click and clack board game pieces without the monster somehow hearing it. It's just kind of a ridiculous premise when you think too hard about it. However, again, John Krasinski, Emily Blunt, and the child actors in particular, the deaf girl, they're all really good in this film, and it is effectively scary at times. I guess I don't really like the creature designs. I mean, they're a little too like CGI, in my opinion. I wish there was something more physical and real about them. However, as it is, this was a very good film, and I'm happy I saw it. I kind of wish I saw it in theaters, admittedly, just for the sound design of it. But moving on now. Number 47, we got some real trash to sift through. This is Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom. I gave this shit a 2 out of 10. This is absolute dog shit, man. 2 out of 10. Fantastic effects, god-awful overall execution, and a rage-inducing ending. One of the worst, stupidest fucking endings to a movie I've ever seen in my life. They bring on Jeff Goldblum to sort of be the character that he was in the other movies, and he sucks in this film. It's like the worst performance he's ever given. They reversed the characters from Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard. For some reason, she loves dinosaurs all of a sudden, and Chris Pratt hates them and wants them all to die at the beginning of this film. It's like, what the hell? Did you not even watch the last movie? Whoever the hell this director was. There were some cool shots, like, and again, the effects are really great, and I like the fact that they use some practical effects. But that ending, man, such garbage. And I'm sick and tired of these Jurassic World movies. And I think I did call it Jurassic Park. It's Jurassic World, as Jeff Goldblum says. And such trash. This movie sucks. Moving on now, number 48, we got an actual great movie here. Number 48, we got Paddington 2. I gave this charming movie a 10 out of 10. It's bright, it's gorgeous, imaginative, kind, a perfect sequel. It's got one of the most beautiful scenes I've ever seen in a film involving this storybook. It's like during the beginning of the film, Paddington is just sort of immersed into this storybook that he wants, and is such a simple premise for a movie. It's just about Paddington wanting to get his aunt a present, and the whole storybook sequence in this film just had me crying my eyes out in such a happy way, like a happy, like totally charmed sort of way. I loved this movie. I loved everything about this film. I thought it was much better than the first movie too, mainly because Hugh Grant is so awesome as the villain here. Like he's so devilishly sinister, but in a nice, charming sort of Hugh Grant way. Like he's so much better than Nicole Kidman in the first movie, in my opinion. And moving on quickly now, number 49. We got Bumblebee. I saw this one rather recently. It's a blatant E.T. Iron Giant ripoff, but it's so undeniably entertaining, man. The action sequences, what a delight to see action sequences involving these Transformers, Autobots, and Decepticons that are actually coherent. Because I watched Dark of the Moon on TV the other day at my friend's place, and I remember seeing that in theaters and liking the film all right. But watching it on TV, for some reason, it gave me a goddamn headache. Like, I couldn't stand watching it anymore. I was just like I had to change the channel. It was at the end when all the buildings are coming down and, like, all the Transformers are bashing into each other. In this, you could actually tell who's who, what the hell's going on. And the only thing that sucks about it is that there isn't really a plot here. It's literally just a ripoff of E.T., we gotta get you back to your people, blah blah blah, protect the earth, whatever. Like, it's just, and all the bumbling in this, like that Bumblebee does, that shit got old. And especially when he's spitting the tapes back out at the main character like they're bullets. Like, I was like, what the hell? He's trying to kill her just because he doesn't like Rick Astley? Come on, guys, what are you doing? Anyhow, last film we got on the list here, number 50, we got Incredibles 2. I gave this movie a 7 out of 10. This was initially disappointing to me, but it is a solid sequel to a Pixar classic. So I think I will bump this up to an 8 out of 10 now that I think about it, because the action sequences are really phenomenal. I love how they essentially turn Elastigirl into the main character, but for smart reasons. Like, it's all to do with damage control, basically. And the only thing that sucks, I really hate the villain. The villain's got nothing on Syndrome, or whatever the villain from the first movie was. Yeah, Syndrome or something. The villain in this, the Screenslaver, just sucks. And like, I like the introduction of the other superheroes too, especially the Vortex chick. Like, there's a scene involving her at the end that's very very inventive and very cool. And yeah. So Incredibles 2 at number 50, the last film I'll mention on here, or one of the last I'll mention. 8 out of 10 for this film, actually. Yeah, 8 out of 10, really good. Anyhow, that's it for the list. A couple of 2018 movies I still have yet to see that I think would change my my rankings, if I did have this ranked in any way, would be I'm about to see Suspiria. I want to see Neil Breen's film that came out last year called Twisted Pair. I want to see If Beale Street Could Talk, Shoplifters, The Oath, A Star Is Born, The Sisters Brothers, A Simple Favor, which is a Paul Feig film. Yes, he directed Ghostbusters 2016, but I think this film could be really good. I think it could be what I expected Thoroughbreds to be, which is just about these nasty women, and be a lot more entertaining than Thoroughbreds was. Another film I want to see, a couple films I want to see include A Prayer Before Dawn, You Were Never Really Here, and Isle of Dogs. Those are still films I want to see that I think would make it pretty high on this list and get good high ratings from myself. Anyhow, that's it, you guys. Thank you very much for watching this. I hope you like these picks, and let me know what some of your favorites of 2018 was. I literally just saw 50 movies and I stopped there. I'm like, okay, I saw 50 movies from 2018. I'm done. I'm done with 2018 films for now. Maybe I'll watch a few more like Suspiria. Especially, I really want to see Twisted Pair, damn it. I was really upset that I couldn't throw it on this list somewhere, but I can't find it anywhere. So I'm going to have to order it or something like that from Neil Breen. So here's my money, Neil Breen. Anyhow, thank you again for watching, you guys. I really hope you enjoy this. There's a little appearance from Audrey there as well. And hey, Audrey, say bye to everybody. Yeah, she's giving a big old yawn, and so am I, because I got a bit of a sore throat. Anyhow, take care, guys, and thank you so much for watching. Peace out.